hardly there is any women like who hasn't experienced a child abuse. I was very surprised with it. And the child abuse even happening is where like at their home, their uncles, their servants at home, even they're going in streets and the shopkeepers are doing this one. And it's so traumatic for a child that their life will never be the same. And still, like the one I have worked with, these were not that level of serious cases. But what I have heard, like actually the 5-year-old girl was raped in a school because she just stayed back for some homework. She's 5 years old. And after the rape, and several times she was raped in a school. It's so overwhelming. So there are many ways of this physical and sexual harassment is happening. There are substances now, and these substances or drugs are used in schools. And it's just happening with young girls. Even with boys, this is happening. There is a verbal and a physical abuse, and it's happening everywhere, even those girls, those are traveling in a public transport. There's so many experiences they have, they can't share it with anyone. They can't talk to anyone. And all these things are it's like impacting a women's mental health so deeply. And women are facing so many mental health issues. Either it's a depression, either it's an anxiety. I tell you something, few months back, I read, there was an international bank, I'm not taking the bank's name. When I was working in a corporate, I really wanted to join that international bank because I was so fascinated. Oh, this is a big bank, it's a multinational bank, and it's, I really want to have a career there. I was very surprised. A couple of months back, I read that a woman was raped inside the bank. And that was a news for me. I don't know if you guys are aware of any such cases, but for me, it was a news. Like, I worked in a bank for 15 years, and I always thought it's a very safe place for women to work because maybe I never had that experience. And then when I read that news, I say, how is this possible? Such a big bank, and a woman had a rape case inside the bank. And the best part was that she was like, when she reported about that incident, first of all, she was asked to stay quiet, and then she was terminated. And then she put up a case. That was another story. So when I started doing some research, I wanted to know whether this is really happening in a bank. Is it a common thing or is it an uncommon thing? And I found there are several hundreds of thousands of cases are happening in corporates, whether it's an actual rape or it's just like a verbal harassment. So I was asking myself, am I really safe? If I'm going to go to a corporate world or any workplace, am I really safe? And it's just not like the physical or sexual abuse. There are many forms of other abuses, violences are happening, abuses are happening, like a psychological violence, which is happening at the domestic level, at the corporate level. Recently, I worked with a client, and she said that my male colleague is like, shouts at me whenever I talk to someone on the phone, and he tells me that I'm very loud. So he always tells me to keep quiet. And that guy is very huge, is big. And she said that I feel so intimidated by that guy that I even can't work in the office. And she was not being able to even report to anyone. She don't know what to tell to her boss. And her mental health was so much suffered that eventually she has to see a therapist to come over that fear. So there are so many types of psychological violences also happening because these are not seen. Maybe a physical abuse you can see, but this psychological abuse or psychological violence is not being seen. People are suffering in that. Women are suffering in that. In the workplaces, I have several other cases those women have suffered. Even boys have suffered with them, men have suffered from them, but we don't talk about it. Maybe somewhere we don't know this is a violence. I asked my client, she's a good friend of mine also, and I said, are you aware that this is a violence or this is abuse and you are being mentally harassed? So have you ever think of reporting to someone? She said, I even didn't realize if this is a harassment, any type of harassment, or it's any type of abuse. I just got scared. So there is also lack of awareness. Sometimes we are psychologically, we are suffering and we don't know about it. Then there is another type of violence, is economical violence. Economical violence is where you don't allow other people to grow in their life. Sometimes it's at domestic level where spouses, they don't allow their women to be financially independent. And sometimes even if they're earning, they get hold of their income. And this is happening even on the corporate level also. I believe this is economical violence when there are some people, those who don't let other men or women to grow. And this economical violence is also affecting your emotional health. So this is creating an emotional trauma as well. It could be an abuse, it could be an humiliation. It's like you're not letting other people to grow, whether it's a man or it's a woman. That's economical violence, and that is creating an emotional trauma. So if you see, economical violence and emotional trauma is equally damaging and disempowering like a physical or sexual abuse. So we need to understand, very importantly, that these are also violences, and we have to create more awareness on this one. And yes, very importantly, our traditional practices, whatever our society is having, different practices, traditional practices are having. And these traditional, any society or culture have their own some kind of a practices, like it could be a child marriage. It could be what we're talking about, female genital mutilation. It could be the gender roles, what we have ascribed to a boy and it's a girl. So boy will do this, a girl will do this. So all these roles, what we have described, there's a discrimination. And these are so deep rooted in our society that it goes from one generation to another generation. And this is the reason somewhere mentally we have accepted this violence against gender, because it's so deep rooted in our society. This is how we are raised. This is what we have seen. And normally, if you see who are these perpetrators, who are the ones who are doing this, we all know it could be a stranger, it could be a colleague, it could be a acquaintance, it could be our partner, it could be our lover. Anyone can do this violence and abuse to us. But mostly it's said, like men, those who do this, either they have a very low education, they have a history of child maltreatment, they have domestic violence against their mothers. This is what they have seen is happening to their mothers. So for them, it's a very normal thing. And they're so out of depression, anxiety. So many kids, they get into alcohol. Unequal gender norms, including attitudes accepting of violence, and a sense of entitlement of over a woman. I know there was a case at my home. My mate's child, he was just like 5 years old, and he was kicking his mother. And I said, why the hell are you doing this? Like, I didn't say why the hell, but I said, why are you doing this to your mother? She is your mother, you should respect her. He said, no, it's perfectly fine what I'm doing. I said, why is that? So it's fine. He said, because I have seen my father and my uncle doing this to my mother. So it's perfectly fine if I am kicking, slapping my mother. So imagine what kind of men we are raising. So whenever even those men, their attitudes or their behavior, because mostly through research or through our observation experiences, we have seen men are the main perpetrators for violence. So what's their history? What's their background? So this is how they have been raised. This is their mindset. Even for the women, like the research said, even women with a low education also suffer from this violence. But to me, I have seen very educated women. They are suffering from any kind of violence, whether it's a physical, it's a sexual, it's like psychological, economical. They are suffering from it because they don't know even that they are being a victim of it. And equally goes to for a woman. If a woman has also seen the same thing in her childhood, that this is how my mother is treated. So somewhere mentally she accepts it. Okay, fine. This is how the marital relationship is, or this is how a brother will treat a sister because she has seen a mother like this. And There's a numerous studies have shown that children growing up with the violence are more likely to become perpetrators in the future. Because this is the example like I've given about my child, a maid's child. So this is a mindset that he's growing up. So imagine how he's going to treat his own wife or daughter, and what is happening in result of all these victimization is like women are doing suicide. They're having health issues, they're having an abortions, they're having a pregnancy issues, they have a conceiving issues, because it's like numerous studies have shown that all these violence, harassment women are going through, it's really affecting their mental, their physical, their emotional health. Especially those who have experienced this violence in childhood, normally they go into excessive smoking, drugs, alcohol, because there is no awareness and there's no counseling for such kids. So I think this is the major reason we need to create more awareness on this. And why it's like if we call about the what's the root cause, it's like, again, it's a gender discrimination, there is cultural dysfunction, there is attitude towards gender discrimination, there is different roles we have defined for a male and for a female, there is a poverty, there is a broken system, and to be very honest, even if there are laws, irrespective, it's not about the underdeveloped countries or developed countries, it's across the borders. And even if there are laws, so many countries are like, they're making up new laws to protect women's rights and human rights, but there is very less implementation. So from my understanding, it's very pivotal for all of us. It's just not, we can't just sit quiet on that. We can't just like speak about this and then we just stay quiet and forget about it. We really have to work on a collaborative level, like WomenAscension is offering this platform where everyone is coming up and speaking about it. So I think we all need to work on a collaborative level. We have to raise our voice. We have to create awareness among people, because that's how we're going to prevent it. If we are not going to prevent it 100%, at least we have to play our part. We just can't sit quiet and we can say, how can I do anything on my own? I'm all alone in this one. But it's not that. Imagine we are using our social media so rigorously that we are using our Facebook, Instagram, any platform we are using. Have we ever think of it that we can use this platform to create more awareness, to raise voice on this one? So maybe today you're alone, you're doing it. But people, those who are really concerned about these issues, they will listen to you. You can collaborate with them. You can create groups with them. And you never know that today maybe you are only one, tomorrow you are like group of 5 people, then you're going to increase to 1,000. And this is how it's like a ripple effect. The more we will start working on this one and we start raising our voices, use this social platform in raising more awareness on this one, inviting more people on this thing, that if more people is like creating that strength. So I read a very interesting quote by Edmund Burke. He says, only necessary thing for the triumph of evil is for good man to do nothing. So lastly, I will say this something is very important for us. First of all, we need to understand what kind of, when we talk about this gender-based violence, what kind of gender-based violence is. And then create that awareness, give that information to your kids, to your girls. Even if you can't do anything else, at least you can start creating this information in your neighborhood, in your friends, in your family, with your kids. Make your girls aware of it, make your boys aware of it. So it's a very collaborative effort. And it's just like if you start scaling up your cause to create this awareness, you never know tomorrow you're going to collaborate with the lawmakers. You can bring them in. It could be police, it could be lawyers, it could be doctors, or anyone. So it's just like in this COVID pandemic, how we are working, all of us, we are together. If someone tells us we have to wear masks, we wear masks because we want to protect our lives. So imagine as a woman, if I say, am I safe? I'm just thinking about my physical disease. But what about like what's happening around me in the society? Am I safe?